Hey guys, over the past few months I've started to collect music CDs, and let me tell you, there's something really satisfying about owning your own physical copy of an album for cheap. In this video I wanted to overview my epic collection so that in the future I can make updates to it. Let's get right into it. The first thing to ever start my collection was this Jensen Red and Black CD player. It was pretty revolutionary to me to get this at the time because back then I was just like 9 and listening to the radio. So the fact that I had something I could always listen to was like a really great gift to me. The first CD I ever got with my CD player was Imagine Dragons Evolve, which in my opinion is probably their best album. I love how there's this floating man in the rainbow light, and they have a rainbow CD. As a kid, I thought that was really cool because like, whoa, look at all those colors. The songs Thunder and Believer are two very popular alternative anthems that struck a wave when they first hit the scene with this album coming out in 2017. Out of the 11 tracks, though, the 2 songs aren't the only ones that resonate with you. I Don't Know Why is a very catchy song that will get you feeling and vibing with this album as its opener. Whatever It Takes is a similar feeling to it, with the band saying they'll do whatever it takes to do something. I don't know, probably to get you to listen to the album. Walking the Wire seems to have a similar message. Imagine Dragons feels like they're on the edge of something mentally at the time and has to get something done, which I think is a very interesting mental state that they were in. Dancing in the Dark and Can We Start Over make for a great end to this album, and I have to say, it's very well put together. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. The next album I ever got was the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack. Now, like I said, this isn't really an album, this is more of a contemplation, but I thought this was really cool as a kid. I loved how like the album cover had these eyes that you could turn. I was like, whoa, there's Miles Morales on there. This was a time when I was in 4th grade and everybody was like listening to like Lucid Dreams, but I had just gotten this and I was like, this album is so cool, there's like hard rap songs on here. I'm such a rebellious kid for listening to this, and I don't know why my parents got it for me, because if they heard it, they would probably stop me, but no, they wouldn't. I always told people that I was listening to this, and they were probably like, that's kind of interesting, okay. To be fair, some of these songs do yell a lot, so I can kind of see why I might have thought that, and they rap sort of fast, like on Start a Riot. And some of these songs take you to another level, like Scared of the Dark, where the rappers say they aren't scared of depression when it seems obvious that they are. I really do like the look of this CD though, and as a kid I thought that his white eyes were really cool. And overall, not a terrible contemplation. Sunflower will always be mid. I'll give this a 5.5 out of 10. Oh, sorry, I was just becoming lost and found there. Next I have Will Smith's Lost and Found. This album contains a lot of pretty mid tracks, and I would argue that this is one of the Fresh Prince's weaker albums. When I hit 6th grade and got a phone, I realized I could listen to music on the Apple Music app. Only problem was I had no idea who to listen to, and so after Dad told me that Will Smith is not only an actor, but also an old rapper, I was intrigued. I got so hooked on Will Smith during the 6th grade that I probably listened to him like every day for the whole year, and when I saw this was in a video store, and I was like, no way! I proceeded to buy it and discovered that I did not like it as much as Big Willie Style or Willenium. Even though this album isn't well put together, probably like a 4 for me, I still enjoy some of the turn-of-the-century jazzy hip-hop on here. Here He Comes and Party Starter are great openings to the album, and the hot single, Switch, was probably played in a lot of clubs across the US. On the track Mr. Nice Guy, he very calmly responds to haters, saying that he's just a nice guy, which personally I find pretty funny. In The Real Slim Shady by Eminem, Eminem disses Will Smith, and later in the music video for Forgot About Dre, ends up mentioning that Smith makes sissy music. Will Smith says in this track, dissed by Eminem, but did it bother him? Yup, but he's classy. Big Will just get another 20 mil, walk right past E, which I find a very funny way to respond. In terms of other tracks I liked, there's I Wish I Made That, Pump Your Brakes, If You Can't Dance, Slide, but overall it's not amazing, 4 out of 10. Now, all of those albums I got a long time ago before I started collecting, but this summer I started to get serious and I bought Michael Jackson No. 1s, Will Smith Greatest Hits, and Big Willie Style. The 2 contemplations I can't really rate, but Michael Jackson No. 1s was what really got me into the King of Pop, and now he's one of my favorite artists. It's a good contemplation, and you'll see him in other CDs now. Big Willie Style, however, sure is something. It may come as a surprise to you, but this album is actually top 20 on the best-selling hip-hop albums of all time. That's just how popular The Fresh Prince was coming into his first solo album, and let me tell you, it's definitely his best. We start with the track Y'all Know, where Will lays down a few great verses that really get you hyped for the rest of the album, and it's a bit of a braggy song, which I find interesting, given that this is his first solo album. He states in the chorus that nobody can rock a crowd or get it hot like him, and the beats behind this track really make it something memorable. Getting Jiggy With It is one of his most popular solo songs, and it's decent, but it doesn't really top my list for his songs. The track Candy, however, is really something special and creative. He starts in this first verse meeting a girl, and the story kind of evolves from there, with the third verse being almost entirely in Candy references. It's definitely something interesting. I would check out the lyrics for it if you are interested. Throughout this album, there are a lot of highlights, and not any songs I really hate, so overall, I would give this a 7 out of 10. Now, like I said, after buying Michael Jackson #1s, I loved Michael Jackson. And as soon as I saw the 40th anniversary edition of Thriller, I just knew I had to buy it. Like, it was in Walmart, it was right there, and I know that Thriller is considered his greatest album, and it's the best-selling album of all time. I was like, well, this is a perfect addition to my CD collection, so I got it. And I have to say, the 40th anniversary edition is pretty nice. The back looks really cool with this font. It comes with 2 CDs, the original and a secondary version, which has some extra tracks that weren't previously released. And for the original album, it's really good. It has some slow songs that aren't the best, but it has some slow songs that are really good. Like The Girl Is Mine with Paul McCartney is amazing. I love how they argue over the girl in the song. It's so funny. They have some very fast, catchy songs like Baby Mine and some classics like Thriller, Beat It, Billie Jean that everybody loves. And I'm pretty sure 7 out of the 9 songs in here, I think that's right, were singles. Yeah, it's amazing. I give it like a 8 or a 7. Sorry, I just gotta make sure I'm in the clear for this next review. I don't want to get 360 no-scoped by Anthony Fantano. Next I have The Maybe Man by AJR. Look, I know the whole internet seems to hate them, but as a formerly big fan, I have to say I don't hate this album. It's definitely their best album by a bit, and there's only 3 tracks that I think really bring it down. Steve's Going to London is pretty weird and repetitive, and although I like the last verse, it doesn't help the overall structure. I Won't is pretty lame, and too much of a weak attempt at a party song. Hole in the Bottom of My Brain is easily the worst track here though, and I don't really care for it at all. In terms of what I like about this album is how much better it's put together and produced than the band's other albums. They seem to have sort of matured with this release and learned how to produce more likable and less childish songs. I love how the opener Maybe Man is like a table of contents for the rest of the album, and how the end of the album cycles into that first song. Touchy Feely Fool, the dumb song Inertia, and DJ Is Crying for Help are my favorite songs overall here. I'd give this one like a 5.5 out of 10. Next, I have Invincible by Michael Jackson. It's not amazing. It's not my favorite. It's his turn of the century, new, clangy, weird instrumental Invincible CD by Michael Jackson. It's very different from the rest of his albums, I would say. There's not too much notable stuff here. There's an interesting Biggie verse on one of his first songs. There's a few alright tracks. Unbreakable's not bad. Heartbreaker's not bad. But that's not to say that even though this song is filled with a lot of songs, there are a few bangers on here. There's Break of Dawn, which is one of my favorite Michael Jackson slow songs. Heaven Can Wait became a big TikTok sound, which I thought was really interesting. And You Rock My World is probably one of my favorite Michael Jackson songs. And so, like I said, not amazing. I'd probably give it like a 4.5 out of 10, but still, there's some good songs on here. Next, I have an album that is so good. So good. If I had to describe this album with words, I wouldn't be able to pick a specific word other than amazing. I have Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone. Everything about this album is just so great. It's so vibey and flowy, starting with the track Hollywood's Bleeding and continuing throughout. The beats are solid, his vocals are so nice, and I've heard his voice described as croony, which is accurate. My favorite tracks are probably the nice opener, Hollywood's Bleeding, where he goes through stages of grief and laced with his great instrumentals. I like his verse on Enemies, Allergic is great, Die For Me is easily the best track of the album, with Halsey's verse probably being my favorite part. Staring at the Sun is amazing, Goodbyes is a classic, Sunflower is still mid, but overall this album is an easy 7.5 to 8 for me. Now that last album was great, but this one probably even tops it. Remember how as a kid we all used to like to play drums on the kitchen pots with like spoons and forks and stuff? Well, this album sort of reminds me of that at points, but it somehow works. I have the soft and loud, clangy and smooth Odelay by Beck. When I got this album for Christmas, I hadn't asked for it and I didn't expect to love it. I saw the random picture of the dog jumping the hurdle and that weird back when I'm not even sure it's happening. There's Humpty Dumpty praying a rosary while the fake baby's head has a skull and crossbones behind it with eggplants and a brain hanging from the ceiling. Despite these interesting album cover choices though, the album itself is great, and I think everybody needs to give it a chance at some point. We start off with the song Devil's Haircut with the boom, ba dum, ba boom, ba dum, got a devil's haircut in my mind. It has some very rough lyrics that definitely belong in the 1990s, but the song is very catchy and solid in the end. Some of my other favorite tracks are Hot Wax, Lord Only Knows, Derlicicit, Where It's At, and others. Amazing album, Beck. 8.5 to 9 out of 10. Next, there's a few albums I actually never reviewed that I have in my collection. So I have Harvest by Neil Young, because I have not fully listened to it yet. I have The Best of Leonard Cohen, which I listened to a fair amount of, and it was kind of nice and mellow, probably something I'll put on while I do my homework. I have Thirsting by Michael, or Michael by the Thirsting, I'm not actually sure. This one I haven't fully listened to yet. This is a contemplation. I've heard most of these songs, but it's pretty cool. And I have Bad by Michael Jackson. Since it's by Michael Jackson, I assume it's probably pretty good. I just haven't fully listened to it yet. If you liked the video, please leave a like, and maybe even hit that subscribe button. I'll try to post some more videos regularly because I know I've been pretty lazy about it recently. But I hope you enjoyed this new long form video, and I'll see you in the next one.